We've all heard the whispers about the Vatican's secret archives. Whispers of alien skulls, forbidden gospels that could shatter Christianity, even a machine that can see through time. But what if the truth isn't what the conspiracies claim? What if it's something far more complex, and in its own way far more shocking? Today we're not chasing shadows. We are opening the vault to look at the real documents that shaped our world, from a king begging for an annulment to the papal decree that literally divided the globe. This is the story of the history they didn't need to hide. First, let's get a handle on what we're actually talking about. The phrase Vatican Secret Archives immediately conjures images of a shadowy vault, guarding world-ending truths.
However, reality is
a little less Hollywood. In 2019, Pope Francis officially changed the name to the Vatican Apostolic Archives, a move to finally clear up a centuries-old misunderstanding. The original Latin name, Archivum Secretum Vaticanum, was never meant to imply secret in the modern conspiratorial sense. A better translation of the Latin word secretum is simply private. These are the Pope's private papers, the official correspondence, the diplomatic letters, the financial books, and the personal notes of the head of the Catholic Church, collected over centuries, while papal records have existed for much longer. The archives were centralized and given their modern form in 1612 by Pope Paul V to preserve the massive paper trail of the Holy See. The sheer scale is difficult to wrap your head around. We're talking about an estimated 85 kilometers or 53 miles of shelving. That's a line of documents that could stretch across a major city, holding records that span 12 centuries. Much of it is housed in a fortress-like wing of the Vatican, complete with a two-story, climate-controlled underground vault known simply as the bunker. The history of the archives is its own drama. Before being centralized, papal documents were scattered, and countless were lost to conflict and decay. The single most devastating event happened in the early 1800s, when Napoleon, in a grand flex of power, had the entire archive seized and hauled to Paris. During the chaotic journey back to Rome, after his fall, huge portions of this priceless collection were lost or simply destroyed, a historical scar the archive bears to this day. What remains is a testament to the Church's enduring power, a fiercely protected record of its dealings with kings, scientists, artists, and saints. And that fierce protection is exactly what fuels the wildest speculation. So, let's start separating the facts from the fiction. A quick search online will tell you the Vatican is hiding proof of alien contact. A time-traveling TV called the Chronovisor, or even the world's largest stash of pornography. These theories are fun, but the truth is infinitely more interesting. While there's zero credible evidence for time machines or alien skeletons, the archives do tell a profound story about the Church's relationship with science, a story of conflict, curiosity, and ultimately, control. Nowhere is this clearer than in the case of Galileo Galilei. The archives hold the actual handwritten court records from his famous 1633 trial. On these pages, you can read the story of the Church's historic clash with the Copernican theory, the idea that the Earth orbits the Sun. Galileo, a brilliant astronomer, was accused of heresy for championing a view that contradicted the Church's Earth-centered doctrine. He was forced to take back his findings and live the rest of his life under house arrest. These documents don't show a battle against extraterrestrials. They show a battle of ideas, a struggle between faith and emerging reason that would help define our modern world. Another persistent myth is that the archives hold some kind of proof that could destroy Christianity itself, a supposed letter between St. Paul and Emperor Nero, or ancient gospels that were deliberately buried. Scholars who have dedicated their lives to studying these documents have found no such thing. What they have found are the very records that built Christianity as we know it today. For example, the archive holds the original papal bull from 1521, the decree from Pope Leo X that excommunicated Martin Luther. This single piece of parchment officially kicked Luther out of the Catholic Church, lit the fuse of the Protestant Reformation, and split Western Christendom forever. It's a document whose fallout led to centuries of war and political turmoil. Next to it, you might find the stunningly decorated parchment from 1854 that formally defined the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception, a core belief for hundreds of millions of Catholics. The archives may not hold proof against Jesus, but they hold the physical proof of how his followers have built institutions and doctrines that have guided and divided billions of lives. The real power of the Vatican archives isn't in cosmic secrets, but in its earthly ones. For centuries, the Pope wasn't just a spiritual figure. He was a global power broker, an arbiter between monarchs. His decisions, recorded and stored here, could make or break entire empires. Maybe the most famous example is the letter that triggered a kingdom-shattering divorce. In 1530, King Henry VIII of England was getting desperate. His wife, Catherine of Aragon, hadn't given him a male heir, and he was fixated on marrying Anne Boleyn. To do that, he needed the Pope to annul his first marriage. The archives hold the incredible petition sent to Pope Clement VII. It's a massive parchment, nearly a meter long, bearing the signatures and dangling red wax seals of 85 of England's most powerful men-dukes, barons, and archbishops, were a high-stakes threat, warning the Pope of chaos if the succession wasn't secured. But the Pope, pressured by Catherine's powerful nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, said no. That refusal was the spark. An enraged Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church, made himself head of the new Church of England, and granted his own divorce. One papal decision, one archive document, and the course of English history was changed forever. But the archives also hold stories of deep personal tragedy. Locked away is a series of letters from Mary, Queen of Scots. A Catholic queen in a Protestant kingdom, she was imprisoned by her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I of England. In 1587, facing execution for plotting to take Elizabeth's throne, Mary wrote a final, heartbreaking letter to Pope Sixtus V in her own handwriting. She pleaded with him to save her life and defend the Catholic faith from the heretics about to kill her. The Pope did not intervene. Mary was beheaded. Her letter remains there today, a queen's final words preserved for eternity, a haunting reminder of the human cost of that era's religious wars. And then there's the Knights Templar. For centuries, conspiracies have claimed the Vatican is hiding the truth about their legendary treasure, or the real reason for their sudden, violent end. The archives don't have a treasure map, but they have something much more valuable, a document that rewrites the official story. For a long time, the accepted history was that the Templars, a wealthy crusading order, were disbanded for heresy. They were arrested all at once in 1307 on the orders of King Philip IV of France, who owed them a fortune. Many were tortured into confessing to fabricated charges, like spitting on the cross. For centuries, the world assumed the Pope condemned them as heretics. But in 2001, a scholar digging through the archives found a misfiled document now known as the Chinon Parchment. Dated 1308, it contains the minutes from a papal investigation into the Templar leaders. And it reveals something stunning. Pope Clement V's investigators had actually absolved the Templars of heresy. The document shows the Pope believed their confessions were forced under torture, and that their sins were minor enough to be forgiven. It proves the Pope never wanted to destroy the order. He was strong-armed by the French king who was after their money. The story of the Templars wasn't about satanic rituals. It was a brutal tale of medieval power politics, and the proof was just sitting there waiting to be found. So, if all these incredible documents exist, who actually gets to see them? The short answer is, very few people. Despite the name change, the Vatican Apostolic Archives are not a public library. Access is tightly restricted to qualified scholars, usually with a postgraduate degree, who must apply with a very specific research topic. You can't just go in and browse. Researchers request specific documents from catalogs, many handwritten in Italian or Latin, and are often limited to just a few folders a day. On any given day, only a small group of scholars might be allowed inside. There's also a strict time limit. For decades, the archives were only accessible up to a certain point in history. Right now, the records are generally open, only up to the end of Pope Pius XII's papacy in 1958. Everything after that is still sealed, protecting diplomatic sensitivities and the privacy of individuals still living. The most significant recent opening was in March 2020. When Pope Francis made the complete archives of Pius XII available. This was huge, because Pius XII's papacy covered all of World War II, and his legacy is one of the most controversial in church history. For decades, historians and Jewish organizations have questioned his public silence on the Holocaust, demanding to know why he never directly condemned the Nazi genocide. His defenders argue that he worked quietly behind the scenes, hiding thousands of Jews in Catholic institutions, and that speaking out would have triggered even worse Nazi retaliation against Catholics across Europe. The opening of these archives, an estimated 16 million pages, promises to finally provide the evidence needed for a full historical accounting of the Vatican's actions during the war. It will take researchers decades to comb through it all. But early findings are already shedding new light on the complex diplomatic calculations and internal debates inside the Vatican as the Holocaust unfolded. This is living history, where once sealed documents are now at the center of one of the 20th century's most urgent moral questions. The Vatican archives are not home to alien skulls or time machines. The truth, locked away on 85 kilometers of shelving, is infinitely more human and far more important. These rooms hold the raw material of our history, the desperate plea of a queen about to be executed, the defiant demand of a king that tore a church in two, the theological debates that redefined faith, and the quiet, bureaucratic memos that might hold the key to the Vatican's actions during humanity's darkest hour. The legends paint a picture of an institution hiding cosmic truths. The reality reveals a human institution wrestling with power, faith, and politics for over 1,000 years. The real secrets of the Vatican archives aren't about changing the laws of physics, but about understanding the laws of power. And separating fact from fiction doesn't destroy the mystery. It reveals a much deeper one. The story of how our modern world was pieced together, one papal decree, one royal letter, and one secret negotiation at a time. If you found this journey into history fascinating, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the stories you thought you knew. Let us know in the comments. What other historical mysteries do you think are waiting to be uncovered in the world's hidden archives? And be sure to check out our playlist on other historical deep dives right here. Thanks for watching.